Let them tell their empire what they learned here. Because the most important lesson of the emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from 200 species filled the great chamber on the neutral world of Concordia. The air itself seemed to vibrate with fear and confusion. Ambassador Bei Min sat in humanity's chair, a simple metal seat that had always been placed in the back corner of the chamber. For 50 years, human representatives had been ignored during these meetings, treated like children who were allowed to watch the adults talk. Today, every eye in the chamber was fixed on her. The Vorthak ambassador's crystal body flashed with angry red light as he spoke. 3 days ago, the primitive humans somehow destroyed an entire Skarn armada. This must be explained. Bei Min stood up slowly. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, the type of person that most aliens barely noticed. That had always been the point. Honored delegates, she said in a calm voice, humanity has never lied to this council. When we said we were peaceful, we meant that we preferred peace. When we said we were technologically developing, we meant that we were still learning. We simply never mentioned how much we had already learned. The ethereal collective's representative floated in his energy bubble, his ancient mind struggling to understand. Impossible. Our intelligence networks have monitored human space for 50 years. We know your capabilities. You know what we wanted you to know, Bei Min replied. She activated a holographic display that showed the recent battles. The other delegates watched in shocked silence as human ships emerged from asteroid fields. Their true forms revealed for the first time. For 50 years, Bei Min continued, humanity has been preparing for the day when someone would try to destroy us. We hoped that day would never come. The hegemony made sure it did. The chamber erupted in angry voices. The Draknari representative, a reptilian being with razor-sharp teeth, hissed his words. You deceived us all. This is unacceptable. Bei Min's expression didn't change. We defended ourselves from unprovoked aggression. If you find that unacceptable, perhaps you should examine your own assumptions about acceptable behavior. On the main screen, new reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The hegemony's invasion of human space had become a complete disaster. Skarn fleets that had terrorized half the galaxy were being destroyed by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Dr. Yoon, Sue monitored the situation from her command center on Earth. Her screens showed the location of every hegemony fleet in the galaxy. Red dots marked enemy forces. Blue dots marked human ships moving to intercept them. General Park, the Nathari coalition is requesting immediate ceasefire negotiations, she reported. General Park Tay studied the strategic display. The Nathari's famous ghost fleet was gone, destroyed in 8 minutes by human gravity weapons. Their remaining forces were retreating toward their home territory. What about the Skarn Empire? He asked. 17 of their 20 armadas have been destroyed or scattered. The survivors are broadcasting surrender signals, but they're too scared to stop running. Park Tay nodded. Fear was spreading through the hegemony forces faster than their ships could travel. Aliens who had spent their lives believing in their own superiority were suddenly discovering they had been wrong about everything. Captain Lee, Hana's task force had just finished destroying the Vorthak Collective's crystal ships above the colony world of Harmony Station. The alien vessels, which could focus starlight into planet-killing beams, had been helpless against human ships that moved too fast to target. Ma'am, we're receiving a message from the Collective's high crystals, reported Nam Ki. They want to discuss terms for ending hostilities. Lee Hana looked at the wreckage of the Vorthak fleet floating in space around her ship. These aliens had spent decades looking down on humans as primitive creatures barely capable of space travel. Tell them to contact Earth Command, she said. I'm just a patrol captain. I don't negotiate with people who are planning to enslave my species. The message was polite but devastating. It told the Vorthak Collective that they were so beneath humanity's notice that their surrender wasn't even worth discussing at the military level. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Bei Min was facing increasingly desperate questions from alien delegates who were beginning to understand the true scope of what they had missed. How many ships do you really have? Demanded the Quantum Federation's representative. How advanced are your weapons? Asked the Stellar Imperium's delegate. What else have you been hiding? Whispered the trade union's ambassador. Bei Min smiled. It was not a comforting expression. You are asking the wrong questions. The question you should be asking is, Why did we hide our capabilities in the first place? She activated another holographic display. This one showed the galaxy's military balance of power over the past 50 years. It revealed a complex web of alliances, threats, and preparations for war. For 50 years, this council has maintained peace through a balance of terror. Every major power has enough weapons to destroy several other powers. Every alliance exists to counter some other alliance. You have all been preparing for the war that would inevitably come. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. She was describing their deepest fears and most secret plans. Humanity chose a different path, Bayman continued. We prepared for the war that others might bring to us. We built our defenses in secret so that we would never need to use them. We hoped that if we looked weak enough, no one would bother to attack us. She paused, letting that sink in. The hegemony proved us wrong. They attacked us precisely because they thought we were weak. So now the galaxy will learn what we built in the shadows. Commander Kim Jun was leading a human fleet toward the hegemony's main staging area near the galactic core. Intelligence reports suggested that over 300 alien ships were gathering there for a massive counterattack against human space. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up the enemy fleet, reported his tactical officer. They're not moving to attack. They're just sitting there. Kim Jun studied the sensor readings. The hegemony fleet was in a defensive formation around a heavily fortified space station. They weren't preparing to attack. They were preparing to be attacked. They're scared, he realized. They're waiting for us to come to them because they don't dare enter human space. It was a complete reversal of the strategic situation. 3 days ago, the hegemony had been confidently invading human territory. Now they were cowering in their own space, afraid to move. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship, his communications officer announced. The message appeared on Kim Jun's main screen. It was from the hegemony's supreme commander, a proud Skarn general who had conquered dozens of worlds. Human forces, the general said, and his voice shook slightly. The hegemony requests immediate negotiations for a ceasefire. We did not understand the true nature of your capabilities. Kim Jun almost laughed. The most powerful military alliance in the galaxy was asking for a timeout after 3 days of fighting. Send a reply, he ordered. Tell them that humanity will consider negotiations after we finish reclaiming all of our territory. Estimated completion time 36 hours. Back on Earth, President Chobin was meeting with her top advisors. The war that was supposed to destroy humanity had instead revealed humanity's true power to the entire galaxy. Madam President, we're receiving surrender offers from 6 different hegemony members, reported Admiral Kang Wu. The Nathari Coalition is offering to pay reparations. The Vorthak Collective wants to establish new trade agreements. Even the Skarn Empire is hinting at a complete withdrawal from our territory. Chobin nodded thoughtfully. And what about the other galactic powers? The ones who weren't part of the hegemony? They're scared, General Park Tay said bluntly. If humans could hide this kind of military capability for 50 years, what else might we be hiding? Every major power is reassessing their intelligence about us. Dr. Yun-Su brought up a new display showing communication intercepts from across the galaxy. The Quantum Federation is recalling all their fleets to defensive positions. The Stellar Imperium has put their entire military on high alert. The trade union is offering us exclusive trade deals. Chobin smiled. For 50 years, humanity had been the galaxy's underdogs. Now they were potentially the galaxy's dominant power. The question is, she said, what do we do with this position? The answer would reshape the galaxy. In the council chamber on Concordia, Ambassador Bei Min was finishing her statement to the assembled delegates. The holographic display showed the complete collapse of the hegemony's invasion force. What had been intended as humanity's destruction had become humanity's coming-out party. 50 years ago, she said, humanity asked to join this council as peaceful members of the galactic community. That offer still stands. We have no desire to conquer or dominate other species. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces filled with fear and uncertainty. However, she continued, and her voice became harder, we will never again tolerate threats against human territory or human lives. The galaxy spent 50 years believing that humanity was weak. Today, that illusion ends. The chamber fell into complete silence. Every delegate understood that the balance of power had SC. Colonel Nam Ki stood in the dropship as it fell through the burning atmosphere of Haven Colony. Around him, 50 soldiers checked their weapons one last time. They looked like ordinary humans in simple armor, nothing like the fancy battle suits that other species used. The Skarn ground forces waiting below had no idea what was coming. 30 seconds to landing, announced the pilot. Her name was Shin Hee, and she had been flying cargo ships between human colonies for 20 years. The Skarn thought they were facing civilian pilots. They were wrong. Nam Ki had watched the orbital battle from space. In 17 minutes, human ships had destroyed an entire Skarn armada. Now it was time for the ground forces to reclaim the colony. Remember your training, Nam Ki told his soldiers. The enemy thinks we're weak because we look weak. Use that. Make them underestimate us until the moment we kill them. The drop ship hit the ground hard. The doors opened and Nam Ki's team rushed out into a world on fire. Haven Colony's main city was in ruins. Skarn warriors moved through the streets looking for human survivors to capture. The Skarn were 8 feet tall with thick scales that could stop most energy weapons. They had claws that could cut through steel and muscles that could lift cars. They had conquered dozens of worlds and never lost a ground battle. That was about to change. Nam Ki's first target was a Skarn patrol that had cornered a group of human civilians near the burning remains of a school. The aliens were taking their time, enjoying the fear in their victims' eyes. Weak humans hide like rabbits, one Skarn warrior laughed. His translator made his words sound like grinding metal. Skarn Empire will teach you to serve properly. Nam Ki and his team moved into position around the patrol. They stayed hidden behind rubble and debris, using the destroyed city to their advantage. The Skarn had powerful armor and weapons, but they fought like they were on an open battlefield. Humans fought like they were in a jungle. The first Skarn died without knowing what hit him. Nam Ki's rifle fired a tungsten bullet at 3 times the speed of sound. The Skarn's energy shields were designed to stop plasma beams and laser bolts. They did nothing against a small piece of metal moving that fast. The bullet went through the alien's head like it was made of soft cheese. The other Skarn spun around, trying to find their attackers. They could see nothing but empty ruins and drifting smoke. Their sensors, designed to track energy weapons, couldn't locate humans using simple kinetic firearms. The second Skarn died from a grenade that bounced off 3 walls before exploding at his feet. The third died from a sniper shot that came from half a mile away. The fourth and fifth died when Nam Ki's soldiers rushed them from 3 directions at once, using knives and bayonets to finish the job. The last Skarn warrior managed to activate his communicator before a human soldier cut his throat. "This is Ground Team 7, the dying alien gasped. "Humans are... they fight like demons. Send reinforcement." The message cut off as the Skarn collapsed. Similar scenes were playing out all across the colony. Human soldiers moved through the ruins like ghosts, picking off Skarn patrols one by one. They used tactics that seemed primitive but proved devastatingly effective. While the Skarn relied on heavy armor and energy shields, humans used camouflage and stealth. While aliens fought with advanced technology, humans fought with explosives, blades, and simple projectile weapons that no alien military had prepared for. Lieutenant Shin Hai landed her dropship in the colony's central square, where 100 Skarn warriors had set up a command post. They thought they were safe behind their energy barriers and heavy weapons. They were wrong. Shin Hai's ship wasn't really a dropship. It was a flying weapons platform disguised as a cargo hauler. Hidden missile pods opened along its hull, revealing enough firepower to level several city blocks. The missiles weren't guided by computers or energy systems that the Skarn could jam. They were old-fashioned chemical rockets with simple mechanical timers, the kind of weapons that most species had stopped using thousands of years ago. That was exactly why they worked. The Skarn command post disappeared in a series of explosions that could be seen from orbit. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but a crater filled with twisted, metal and alien bodies, Dr. Yoon. Sue watched the ground battle from her command center on Earth. Her screens showed human forces advancing through every major city on Haven Colony. The Skarn defenders, who had expected to face panicked civilians, instead found themselves fighting professional soldiers who seemed to appear and disappear like smoke. "General, our ground teams have retaken 60% of Haven Colony," she reported to Park Tae. "Enemy casualties are at 90%. Our casualties are minimal." Park Tae nodded. He had spent 50 years studying not just alien technology but alien psychology. He knew how each species thought, how they fought, What they feared. The Skarn were proud warriors who believed in honor and direct combat. They had never faced an enemy that refused to meet them in open battle. Human tactics, using cover, setting traps, striking from unexpected directions, confused and terrified them. What about the other battles? Park Tae asked. Yunsu switched her screens to show other human colonies under attack. The Nathari Coalition's Ghost Fleet tried to use their phasing technology to attack New Harmony directly. Our gravity mines pulled them out of phase space and into normal reality. 43 invisible ships suddenly became very visible. The Nathari had made the same mistake as the Skarn. They assumed that human technology was primitive because it looked primitive. They didn't realize that humans had been developing anti-phasing weapons for decades, waiting for exactly this moment. Commander Kim Jun's task force had reached Green Valley just as the Nathari fleet arrived. The alien ships flickered in and out of visibility like ghosts, using their advanced technology to phase through space itself. "Sir, we can't target them with conventional weapons," reported his tactical officer, Park Soo. "They're shifting between dimensions too quickly." Kim Jun smiled. "Good thing we brought unconventional weapons." The human ships fired what looked like simple metal spheres into the space around the Nathari fleet. The aliens ignored them. After all, what could simple metal balls do against ships that existed in multiple dimensions? The spheres exploded, but not with fire or energy. Instead, they released gravitational distortions that warped space-time itself. The Nathari ships caught between dimensions were suddenly pulled back into normal reality. "All ships open fire," Kim Jun ordered. The human fleet unleashed a storm of kinetic projectiles. The Nathari ships, designed for hit-and-run attacks while phased, had light armor and weak shields. Against solid projectiles moving at incredible speeds, they were helpless. In 8 minutes, the entire Ghost Fleet was destroyed. Back on Haven Colony, Colonel Nam Ki had reached the planetary governor's mansion. This was where the Skarn had set up their main base of operations. It was heavily defended with energy barriers, automated weapons, and 200 of the Empire's best warriors. Nam Ki studied the building through his binoculars. Any other species would have tried a direct assault, using advanced weapons and energy shields to break through the defenses. Humans had a different idea. "Dig," Nam Ki ordered his engineers. For the next 6 hours, human soldiers worked in the underground tunnels that connected Haven Colony's buildings. The Skarn had no idea that humans were moving beneath their feet, setting charges and preparing for an attack from below. When the explosives went off, the entire mansion collapsed into a sinkhole. The Skarn warriors inside were buried under tons of rubble. Their energy shields and advanced armor were useless against simple gravity and falling rocks. Admiral Kang Wu watched the battles from his command ship. Human forces were winning everywhere, but not through superior technology. They were winning through superior tactics. The galaxy's military powers had spent thousands of years developing energy weapons, force fields, and exotic technologies. They fought wars in space with massive fleets and planet-killing superweapons. Humans fought wars with physics. Kinetic weapons couldn't be stopped by energy shields. Gravity mines couldn't be jammed by electronic warfare. Explosives and bullets worked the same way they had worked for thousands of years. And no amount of advanced technology could change the laws of physics. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the Hegemony High Command," reported his communications officer. Kang Wu read the message on his screen. It was a demand for immediate negotiations. The Hegemony wanted to talk about terms for ending the war. After 1 day of fighting. "Send a reply," Kang Wu said. "Tell them we're busy. We'll talk when we're finished reclaiming our territory." The message was simple, but its meaning was clear. Humanity wasn't interested in negotiations. They were interested in victory. Colonel Nam Ki stood in the ruins of the governor's mansion as his soldiers rounded up the surviving Skarn. The aliens looked broken and confused. They had come to Haven Colony expecting to conquer weak humans. Instead, they had been systematically destroyed by an enemy they had never understood. "Sir, what should we do with the prisoners?" asked one of his sergeants. Nam Ki looked at the captured Skarn warriors. For 50 years, these aliens had looked down on humans as primitive and weak. Now they knew better. "Send them home," he said. The attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Commander Kim Jun was drinking his coffee aboard the patrol ship Endurance when every alarm on the bridge started screaming at once. "Sir, we're getting emergency signals from Haven Colony. shouted his communications officer. Her name was Park Soo, and she usually spoke very quietly. Now her voice was full of panic. Kim Jun ran to the main screen. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Haven Colony, home to 2 million humans, was burning. Massive alien ships hung in space above the planet like dark clouds. Green energy beams shot down from the ships, turning cities into glass. "Get me Captain Lee Hana right now," Kim Jun ordered. Lee Hana appeared on the screen within seconds. Behind her, the bridge of her ship was full of running people and flashing lights. "Kim, are you seeing this?" "The whole outer rim is under attack," Kim Jun said. 17 colonies hit so far. The enemy ships. I've never seen anything like them. The attacking fleet was huge. Each ship was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could crack planets in half. Strange symbols marked their hulls. Kim Jun recognized them from intelligence reports. This was the hegemony. The hegemony was an alliance of 6 major alien powers. For years they had grown tired of the Galactic Council's rules about peace and cooperation. They wanted to divide the galaxy among themselves, and they had decided to start with the weakest target they could find: humans. On Earth, Dr. Yoon Soo burst into General Park Tae's office without knocking. Her usually neat hair was messy, and her hands shook as she held a datapad. "General, the hegemony has launched a full invasion. 23 human colonies are under attack." "They're not taking prisoners?" Park Tae stood up slowly. He was 70 years old, but his back was still straight and his eyes were still sharp. For 50 years he had prepared for this day. Part of him was almost relieved that the waiting was finally over. "Show me the enemy numbers," he said calmly. Yoon Soo activated the wall screen. It showed a map of human space with red dots marking enemy fleets. There were hundreds of them. The Skarn Empire is leading the attack with their 7th, 8th, and 9th armadas. That's over 600 ships. The Nathari Coalition has sent their Ghost Fleet, 300 ships that can turn invisible. The Vorthak Collective brought their crystal ships that can focus starlight into planet-killing beams. Park Tae studied the map. Each red dot represented enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. By any reasonable calculation, humanity was doomed. "What are our losses so far?" he asked, surprisingly light. "Most of our colonies managed to evacuate their civilians before the main attacks hit. But General, our patrol fleets are reporting something strange." "What kind of strange?" Yoon Soo looked confused. "The hegemony ships aren't using their strongest weapons. It's like they're playing with us. They're destroying buildings and infrastructure, but they're not trying to wipe out our populations completely." Park Tae smiled. It was not a nice smile. Of course they're not. They think we're harmless. They want to keep us alive to be their slaves. Meanwhile, in space above the burning colony of New Harmony, Captain Lee Hana watched enemy ships destroy everything her people had built. The Skarn warships moved slowly and confidently. They weren't even using their shields. "Ma'am, we're receiving surrender demands from the Skarn fleet commander," reported her weapons officer, Ki. He was a big man with scarred hands who looked like he belonged on a farm, not a spaceship. Lee Hana read the message on her screen. It was written in simple words that the aliens thought humans could understand. "Weak humans, surrender now. Skarn Empire will let you live as workers. Resist and die." "Ma'am, what are your orders?" Ki asked. Lee Hana looked around her bridge. Her crew looked scared, just like they were supposed to. For 50 years they had all been acting, pretending to be weak, pretending to be harmless, pretending that their ships were just barely holding together. "Send a reply," she said. "Tell them we're just a patrol ship with no real weapons. Ask them to please leave our colony alone." Ki looked confused, but he sent the message. The Skarn response came back quickly. "Pathetic humans, run away or be destroyed." Lee Hana opened a secure channel to Earth. "General Park, this is Captain Lee Hana. The enemy has revealed their intentions. They want us alive to work for them." Park Tae's voice came back steady and calm. "Understood, Captain. How long until all civilians are evacuated?" 12 hours, sir." "Good, continue the performance until then." The performance meant acting like scared, helpless humans. Lee Hana's ships retreated slowly, sending panicked messages about being outgunned and overwhelmed. They made their engines smoke and their weapons miss their targets. The Skarn ate it up. Their fleet commander sent mocking messages about how pathetic human military technology was. He bragged to his officers about how easy this conquest would be. On Earth, President Cho Bin called an emergency meeting of the Planetary Council. The meeting room was full of old men and women who looked like they were ready to panic. But looks could be deceiving. "The outer colonies are falling," announced Admiral Kang Wu. He had returned from the space station as soon as the attacks began. "The hegemony fleets are moving toward the core worlds. At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in 6 days. The council members made worried noises. Some suggested trying to negotiate with the hegemony. Others talked about evacuating Earth's population to hidden bunkers. President Cho-bin listened to it all with a calm expression. Finally, she raised her hand for silence. "General Park, in your professional opinion, how long would it take for the hegemony to completely conquer human space if we continue to resist with our current revealed military capabilities?" Park Tae stood up. Even though he was the oldest person in the room, his voice was strong and clear. 3 weeks, Madam President. Maybe 4 if we're lucky. And how long to reconquer our territory if we reveal our true capabilities? Park Tae smiled. 72 hours. President Cho-bin nodded. Then I believe it's time to stop pretending. She turned to face the wall screen that showed the galaxy map. Red dots marked enemy fleets throughout human space. Green dots showed human forces, or at least the human forces that everyone thought they knew about. "For 50 years we have played the part of the weak newcomers," Cho-bin said. "We have been laughed at, looked down upon, and treated like children by races that think they're better than us. Today that ends." She pressed a button on her desk. It was a simple red button that had been waiting 50 years to be pushed. Across human space, every civilian ship, every cargo hauler, every mining station received the same message. Protocol 7. All call signs. Authenticate and engage. Commander Kim Jun received the message aboard his patrol ship. For a moment, he just stared at the screen. Then he started laughing. After 50 years of pretending to be weak, he was finally going to show the galaxy what humans could really do. "All hands, this is the commander," he announced over the ship's speakers. "Drop the act. It's time to go to work." Throughout the ship, crew members who had been pretending to be scared and confused suddenly became calm and professional. Hidden weapon systems powered up. Armor plating slid into place. The Endurance's real engines came online with a roar that shook the entire ship. Outside, the Skarn fleet commander was about to learn that he had made a terrible mistake. He thought he was hunting sheep. He was about to discover he had cornered a pack of wolves. General Park Tae's command had gone out across all of human space. Protocol 7. After 50 years of hiding, the greatest military deception in galactic history was about to end. Captain Lee Hana felt her ship change around her. The Endurance had been pretending to be a weak patrol vessel for so long that she had almost forgotten what it really was. Now, as hidden systems came online, the ship revealed its true nature. Metal panels slid away from the hull, exposing rows of missile launchers that had been hidden for decades. The engine room, which had been making fake smoke and noise, suddenly roared with real power. The ship's computer systems, which had been running at only 10% capacity, came fully online. "All stations report ready," said her weapons officer, Nam Kai. His voice was different now, sharper, more professional. The act of being a simple farm boy was over. "Excellent," Lee Hana said. She opened a channel to the Skarn fleet that was still destroying the colony below. "This is Captain Lee Hana of the Earth Defense Ship Endurance. You have attacked human civilians without cause. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The Skarn fleet commander's response came back full of laughter. "Pathetic human ship thinks it can threaten the mighty Skarn Empire. Your tiny weapons cannot even scratch our armor." Lee Hana smiled. "You're right. Our old weapons couldn't hurt you. Good thing we brought new ones." The Endurance fired its first real shot in 50 years. It wasn't an energy beam like most alien weapons. It was something much simpler and much more dangerous. A solid metal rod fired at incredible speed. The kinetic projectile hit the Skarn flagship's shields at nearly the speed of light. The shields designed to stop energy weapons did nothing against solid matter moving that fast. The rod punched through the ship's hull like it was made of paper. The Skarn flagship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire star. System Commander Kim Jun watched from his own ship as the Skarn fleet suddenly realized they were in terrible danger. The alien ships, which had been moving slowly and confidently, suddenly started running, but they were too late. All around the human colonies, ships that had looked like cargo haulers and mining vessels were dropping their disguises. What the Skarn had thought was a handful of weak patrol ships was actually a full battle fleet. More importantly, things were emerging from the asteroid fields. For 50 years, humans had been mining asteroids throughout their territory. The aliens had assumed they were just digging for metals and ice. They were wrong. Humans had been hollowing out the asteroids and turning them into hidden fortress ships. The asteroid-designated mining station Delta 7 suddenly split open like a flower. Inside was a ship larger than anything the Skarn had ever seen. Its hull was covered in weapons that could destroy planets. Its engines could power entire cities. Admiral Kang Wu stood on the bridge of this massive ship. For 50 years, he had been pretending to run a simple space station. In reality, he had been commanding one of the most powerful warships ever built. "All batteries fire at will," he ordered. The fortress ship's weapons lit up space like a new sun. Hundreds of kinetic projectiles shot out at impossible speeds. Each one hit a Skarn ship and turned it into scrap metal. But the real surprise was still coming. On Earth, Dr. Yoon-soo monitored the battle from the command center. Her screen showed Skarn fleets throughout human space suddenly finding themselves facing enemies they had never imagined. "General, the 7th Armada is completely destroyed," she reported. "The 8th Armada is retreating. The 9th Armada is trying to surrender." General Park Tae nodded. "What about the other hegemony forces?" "The Nethari Coalition's Ghost Fleet just discovered that their invisibility doesn't work against our sensors. 3 human destroyers are hunting them down one by one. The Vorthak crystal ships are trying to use their starlight beams, but our ships are too fast and too well armored." Park Tae had spent 50 years studying alien military tactics. He knew exactly how each enemy species liked to fight. The Skarn relied on heavy armor and big guns. The Nethari used stealth and speed. The Vorthak focused raw energy into devastating beams. All of their tactics were designed to fight other energy-based civilizations. None of them knew how to handle kinetic weapons, simple metal objects moving very, very fast. Captain Lee Hana's ship had destroyed 12 Skarn vessels in as many minutes. Each kill was clean and efficient. The kinetic projectiles were impossible to dodge because they moved too fast to see. They were impossible to stop because no shield in the galaxy was designed for solid objects traveling at those speeds. "Ma'am, we're getting surrender signals from the remaining Skarn ships," reported Nam Ki. "Too late for that," Lee Hana said coldly. "They had their chance to leave peacefully. The battle was over in 17 minutes. An entire Skarn armada, 200 ships that had terrorized half the galaxy, was reduced to floating debris. Not a single human ship was even damaged. But the real shock was just beginning. News of the battle spread through the galaxy's communication networks faster than light. Within hours, every major power knew that something impossible had happened. A human patrol fleet had completely destroyed one of the Skarn Empire's most powerful armadas. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to try to understand what had just occurred. Ambassador Bei Min represented humanity at the meeting. She was a small, quiet woman who had spent years being ignored and talked down to by alien diplomats. Now every eye in the council chamber was focused on her. "The reports must be wrong," declared the Vorthak representative. His crystal body sparkled with nervous energy. "Humans do not possess the technology to defeat Skarn warships." Baymin smiled politely. "With respect, honored ambassador, perhaps your information about human capabilities is not as complete as you believed." The ethereal collective's representative floated in his energy bubble, his ancient mind struggling to process what he had heard. "This is impossible. We have observed human technology for 50 years. They are primitive." "You observed what we wanted you to observe," Baymin said simply. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Species that had looked down on humans for decades suddenly realized they might have made a terrible mistake. Meanwhile, the war was far from over. The hegemony had sent hundreds of fleets to conquer human space. Most of them were still on their way to human colonies, expecting easy victories against helpless farmers and miners. They were about to get the surprise of their lives. Admiral Kang Wu's fortress ship was already moving to intercept the next wave of attackers. But he wasn't alone. All across human space, ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and gas clouds were revealing themselves. The galaxy was about to learn that humans hadn't been building a civilization for 50 years. They had been building a war machine. Commander Kim Jun received new orders from Earth Command. His target was a Nethari coalition fleet heading for the agricultural world of Green Valley. The Nethari ships could turn invisible and phase through solid matter. Against any other enemy, they would be nearly impossible to defeat. But humans had spent 50 years developing sensors that could track invisible ships. They had weapons that could hit targets in multiple dimensions at once. They had been preparing for this exact fight for decades. "Take us to intercept course," Kim Jun ordered. Time to show the coalition what real ghosts look like. The Endurance disappeared into hyperspace, followed by 20 other ships that the galaxy had never seen before. They were heading to what would become known as the Battle of Green Valley, the fight that would break the Nathari coalition's will to continue the war. Behind them, more fortress ships were emerging from asteroid fields. Each one was larger than entire alien fleets. Each one carried enough firepower to sterilize planets. For 50 years, the galaxy had believed that humans were weak because they looked weak. They were about to learn that the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look dangerous at all. The hegemony had started this war because they thought humans would be easy to conquer. They were about to discover that they had attacked the most patient, most prepared, and most dangerous species in the galaxy. The mask was off. The gloves were coming off next. The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars. Its name was New Geneva, and it looked like a peaceful place where different alien races could meet and talk. Ships from all over the galaxy came here every day. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the starlight. Others were smooth and white like pearls. Then there were the human ships. Admiral Kang Wu stood at the window of his office watching the ships come and go. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. When aliens looked at him, they saw exactly what he wanted them to see. A simple human who was happy to be part of the big galactic family. The human ships outside looked terrible compared to the alien ones. They were big, ugly, and made lots of noise. Black smoke came out of their engines. Their metal hulls were covered in rust and dents. When they tried to dock at the station, they moved slowly and clumsily, like old elephants trying to dance. "Sir, the Vorthak ambassador wants to meet with you," said Captain Lee Hanna as she entered the office. She was a young woman with short black hair and a friendly smile. Like all humans on the station, she wore a simple blue uniform that looked cheap next to the fancy clothes that aliens wore. Kang Wu nodded. "What does he want this time?" "More workers for their crystal mines. He says humans are good at the dangerous jobs that his people don't want to do." Kang Wu smiled, but his eyes stayed cold. "Of course. Tell him I'll be happy to discuss it." This was how things had been for 50 years. When humans first met the galactic community, Earth's leaders made a smart choice. They decided to look weak and harmless. They hid their real technology and sent their worst ships to space. They acted like they were just happy to be included. The plan worked perfectly. Aliens saw humans as useful but not dangerous. They gave humans the jobs that nobody else wanted: mining in dangerous places, cleaning toxic waste, fighting small pirates in forgotten corners of space. Humans said yes to everything and asked for very little in return. Captain Lee Hanna commanded a patrol ship called the Endurance. It was one of many human ships that protected the outer colonies. To aliens, these ships looked like flying garbage cans. They had old weapons, slow engines, and hulls that seemed ready to fall apart. But Hanna knew the truth. Hidden inside the ugly metal shell, the Endurance was actually a very dangerous warship. Its real weapons were hidden behind fake panels. Its engines could move 3 times faster than they pretended. Even the rust on the outside was fake, painted on to make the ship look old and weak. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from the outer colonies," said her communications officer, Kim Jun. He was a quiet young man who looked like he barely knew how to use the ship's computers. "Everything looks normal." Normal meant that human colonies were growing bigger and stronger every day. Normal meant that more and more humans were moving to new worlds. Normal meant that Earth's secret plan was working. The aliens didn't know that every human colony was actually a hidden fortress. They didn't know that every civilian ship carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. They didn't know that every human settler had military training. Most importantly, they didn't know about General Park Tae. Park Tae was Earth's greatest secret. He was the man who planned everything from the shadows. For 50 years, he had been building the most powerful military force in galactic history. Not one alien had ever seen him or knew his name. From his hidden base on Earth, Park Tae watched reports from all over human space. Dr. Yoon Soo, his chief scientist, brought him the latest intelligence about alien military capabilities. The Skarn Empire just finished building 50 new battleships, she reported. The Nithari Coalition is testing new plasma weapons. The Ethereal Collective claims they can destroy entire solar systems with their mind powers. Park Tae listened carefully. He was an old man now, with white hair and deep lines on his face. He had spent his whole life preparing for the day when the mask would come off. "And what do they think of us?" he asked. Yunsu smiled. "They think we're still using gunpowder and wooden ships. The Galactic Council's latest report says that humanity poses no military threat to anyone." Perfect. That was exactly what Park Tae wanted to hear. The galaxy was full of proud warrior races. The Skarn were 8-foot-tall reptiles with natural armor and claws. The Vorthak were living crystals that could focus starlight into deadly beams. The Nithari could fly through space without ships and shoot plasma from their hands. All of them looked down on humans. Humans were soft, pink creatures with no natural weapons. They couldn't breathe in space. They couldn't shoot energy beams. They seemed to need machines for everything. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans were very good at building machines. And they were even better at hiding what those machines could really do. President Cho Bin knew this better than anyone. She was Earth's leader, but most aliens thought she was just a figurehead. They believed the real decisions were made by some council of old humans who barely understood galactic politics. The truth was that Cho Bin was one of the smartest people in the galaxy. She had degrees in military strategy, alien psychology, and advanced physics. But when she met with alien leaders, she acted like a simple grandmother who just wanted everyone to get along. "We humans are just happy to help however we can," she would say with a warm smile. "We know we're not as advanced as your wonderful civilizations." The aliens ate it up. They loved feeling superior to the primitive humans. They gave Earth more and more territory, thinking they were being generous to their weak little neighbors. Meanwhile, in asteroid fields throughout human space, massive construction projects continued in secret. What looked like mining operations were actually shipyards building the most advanced warships ever created. What looked like cargo haulers were actually troop transports filled with Earth's finest soldiers. Admiral Kang Wu finished his meeting with the Vorthak ambassador. As always, the crystal being had been condescending and rude. He talked about humans like they were pets that had learned a few clever tricks. "Your people show promise," the ambassador said in his musical voice. "Perhaps in a few hundred years you might develop real space technology." Kang Wu nodded humbly. "We can only hope to learn from your wisdom." After the alien left, Kang Wu's friendly mask disappeared. He opened a secure channel to Earth. "General Park, this is Kang Wu. The Vorthak still see us as harmless miners and traders. No change in their assessment." Park Tae's voice came back clear and strong. "Good, continue the mission. Phase 2 begins soon." Kang Wu understood. For 50 years, humans had been playing the part of weak, grateful newcomers. But that game was almost over. Soon the galaxy would learn what humans were really capable of. The truth was that humans had never been weak. They had just been patient.